The contemporary financial landscape of the British monarchy has been fundamentally redefined by the divergence between the established institutional wealth of the Prince of Wales and the volatile commercial ventures of the Duke of Sussex. By early 2026, this tension reached a critical state of insolvency, characterized by a reported $36 million liquidity gap in the Sussex financial portfolio. This crisis is not merely a product of personal expenditure, but represents a systemic collapse of a multi-year strategy to monetize royal status in the North American market. The refusal of the Prince of Wales to authorize a bailout through the Duchy of Cornwall, an estate now functioning as a clinical corporate entity under the St. James Protocol, has effectively severed the royal safety net, forcing the Montecito-based branch to confront the consequences of financial independence in a hostile economic climate. The figure of $36 million has become a focal point of intense financial scrutiny, representing a paradoxical transition from inheritance to perceived deficit. Historically, Prince Harry's net worth was anchored by an estimated $36 million inheritance from his mother, Princess Diana, and his great-grandmother, the Queen Mother. However, by 2026, industry analysts and royal observers have begun to frame this figure as a debt or liquidity gap, resulting from high burn rate operations and the exhaustion of non-renewable capital. The mechanism of this decline is rooted in the Megxit transition of 2020. Upon stepping back from senior royal duties, the Duke and Duchess were stripped of their taxpayer-funded security and the financial support of the then Prince of Wales's Duchy of Cornwall income. Harry acknowledged that his inheritance became the primary source of survival during this transition, covering the £2.4 million renovation costs of Frogmore Cottage and the initial purchase of the $14.65 million Montecito estate. The transition from a £36 million cushion to a reported $36 million crisis is symptomatic of the Sussex Empire's failure to generate sustainable cash flow. While the couple initially commanded over $120 million in combined media deals, the incremental payout structure of these contracts, combined with significant overhead and legal costs, has led to a depletion of liquid assets. The debt mentioned in current reports often refers to the opportunity cost of lost revenue and the mounting liabilities associated with maintaining a royal-adjacent lifestyle without a royal-sized budget. Looking at the comparative asset and liability framework from 2020 to 2026, the inherited liquidity has dropped from $36 million to less than $5 million, depleted by real estate and security costs. Media contract values that once sat at $120 million have effectively hit zero in terms of active or renewable income following the non-renewal of Netflix and Spotify deals. Real estate equity in their primary home has seen a projection drop toward $8.5 million due to market stabilization and a regional insurance crisis. Most significantly, security overhead has shifted from being state-funded to costing between $3 and $5 million annually for private details required in both Montecito and the United Kingdom. The ascension of Prince William as the Duke of Cornwall has marked a radical shift in royal fiscal policy. Controlling a billion-pound estate, William has reportedly implemented the St. James Protocol, a hardline stance that treats the monarchy's assets as a strategic reserve for active duty members only. This protocol is described as a clinical approach to the family's assets, rooted in the belief that loyalty and duty must have a literal price. For William, the refusal of a bailout is not merely a sibling rivalry, but a matter of institutional survival. He is reportedly livid that his brother has profited from public criticisms of the family while expecting the same family to subsidize his commercial failures. The Duchy of Cornwall, which once funded both brothers, is now exclusively ring-fenced to support the Prince of Wales's family and his specific charitable endeavors, such as Earthshot and homelessness initiatives. The institutionalization of this financial wall has left the Duke of Sussex in a state of serious worry. Without access to the royal treasury, he is forced to face the financial consequences of his departure. William is also reportedly considering the long-term implications of marital instability, seeking to impose controls now to ensure that royal assets do not find their way into potential future divorce settlements. This preemptive fiscal strike signals that the Bank of Pay is officially closed, and the era of the royal safety net has returned to an era of strict accountability. The collapse of the Sussex's commercial empire is most visible in the termination of their primary media partnership with Netflix. The $100 million deal, signed with great fanfare in 2020, has reached its conclusion without renewal. Netflix executives reportedly feel they have got all they can from the couple, identifying the 2022 docuseries Harry and Meghan as the zenith of their creative and commercial value. The data on viewership supports this decision. While the initial documentary racked up 64 million viewing hours, subsequent projects have seen a precipitous decline in engagement. The 2024 series Polo reportedly drew only 500,000 views, a figure that fails to justify the premium price tag associated with the Sussex brand. Furthermore, the 2025 lifestyle show With Love, Meghan failed to crack the top 300 most-watched titles, receiving critical reviews that described it as exhausting and queasy. Netflix's decision is part of a broader cleansing of celebrity deals across the streaming industry. As companies pivot toward the bottom line, the high-cost, low-output model of the Sussexes has become unsustainable. Sources suggest that Netflix executives became increasingly frustrated that the Duchess's priority was her own lifestyle brand as ever, rather than producing content for the streamer. This perceived conflict of interest has turned the royal asset into a hostile takeover attempt of corporate resources, leading to the final sunset of the deal. The decline is mirrored in content performance across the board. While Harry and Meghan in 2022 was a major commercial hit, Heart of Invictus in 2023 saw only moderate engagement, praised for its mission but reaching only a niche audience. By the time Polo was released in 2024, the 500,000 views represented a significant failure. The 2025 release with Love, Meghan ranked 389th globally and was a critical failure, often receiving one-star reviews. The Duke and Duchess's $14.65 million Montecito estate, once a sanctuary of freedom, has transformed into a strategic and financial liability. By 2026, the California luxury real estate market has been hit by a failed sale crisis, driven by a crumbling homeowners insurance market. Montecito is located in a high-risk wildland-urban interface, making it a primary target for insurer retreats. Homeowners are reporting premium increases of 20 to 60%, with many being forced into the state's FAIR plan, an insurer of last resort that recently requested a 36% rate hike due to the $650 billion in disaster exposure. For an estate of 18,000 square feet, the carrying costs, including home hardening measures such as ember-resistant vents and vegetation clearing, have become a massive annual drain on liquid capital. Rumors have circulated in early 2026 that the couple is quietly attempting to sell the home via an office-exclusive or pocket listing to avoid the public shame of a commercial listing. However, Montecito's median price has stabilized around $8.5 million, significantly lower than the $14.65 million paid in 2020 when adjusted for inflation and the current insurance risk. The inability to sell the home quickly or for a profit has created a state of financial paralysis, where the couple is trapped in an asset that requires millions in annual upkeep but cannot be easily liquidated. A defining characteristic of the Sussex Empire's collapse is the unprecedented turnover of staff. By January 2026, the couple had lost their 11th publicist in 5 years. This PR nightmare reached a peak with the resignations of Chief Communications Officer Meredith Maines and Arcuel head James Holt in late 2025. Major U.S. PR agencies have reportedly begun rejecting the Sussexes' accounts, branding them as difficult and cheap. Industry experts estimate that top-tier PR representation for high-profile clients typically costs between $150,000 and $300,000 annually, a rate the couple is reportedly unwilling to meet, despite their high demands for Kardashian-level results. This has led to a reliance on interim management from London, which creates significant challenges in time zone coordination and staff burnout. The Sussex Survivors Club, a group of former employees from their time in both London and California, has become a persistent narrative threat. The consistent turnover suggests an unstable reputation that damages the couple's credibility among friends and potential Hollywood allies. Without a professional communications team, the couple has been described as hitting DEFCON 1 at any moment, leading to erratic public statements and a perceived lack of consistency and restraint. Faced with the collapse of their media revenue, the Duchess of Sussex pivoted to a retail lifestyle brand named As Ever, a rebrand of the previously stalled American Riviera Orchard. However, the January 2026 launch was marred by a technical glitch that exposed the brand's actual commercial health. The glitch revealed that thousands of units of inventory remained unsold, contradicting the sold-out narrative the brand attempted to project. For example, over 62,000 units of a 64-pound candle remained in stock, along with nearly 40,000 units of peppermint tea. Critics have characterized the launch of the A Moment to Unwind set as a cash grab intended to bundle and clear this slow-moving stock. The brand has been criticized as a doom loop of rebrands and hype that lacks substantive product innovation. While insiders claim the brand is preparing for global expansion, the public reaction to a $64 candle and a $14 leather bookmark has been swift and acidic, with many questioning the Duchess's tone deafness in an economically strained climate. This retail failure is particularly damaging because it represents the last viable path to the financial independence the couple so publicly sought. Internal stock exposure reports from early 2026 show over 80,000 units of dried flower sprinkles and 220,000 units of signature rose jam sitting in warehouses, representing millions in unrealized revenue. Prince Harry's financial strategy has become increasingly dependent on legal victories. In January 2025, he settled a case against the Sun publisher for an 8-figure sum, likely exceeding $12 million. While his lawyer, David Sherborne, hailed this as a monumental victory, the financial reality is more complex. The costs of multi-year litigation against major publishers are astronomical. In a similar case, actor Hugh Grant was forced to settle because of the risk of a £10 million legal bill if the case went to trial. Harry faces a similar bind as he proceeds with a trial against the Daily Mail publisher in early. If he fails to win a substantial judgment, the indemnity costs could potentially bankrupt his remaining liquid assets. Furthermore, his ongoing legal battle for state-funded security in the UK remains a stalemate. The government's Ravik committee has consistently maintained that his change in status to a non-working royal means he is not entitled to the same level of taxpayer-funded protection. This has left the Duke and Duchess with a security bill they can't afford, further straining a budget that has already seen the loss of $100 million in projected streaming income. One of the most surprising elements of the 2026 crisis is the fracturing of the couple's relationship with Tyler Perry. Perry, who famously provided them with refuge in 2020, became embroiled in a $260 million sexual harassment and assault lawsuit. In a move that has been described as a total lack of moral courage, the Sussexes have remained conspicuously silent on the matter. This silence has been interpreted as a betrayal of a friend who was fierce in his defense of them during their exit from the UK. Royal experts suggest that the couple is in a lose-lose situation. If they support Perry and he is found guilty, their brand is tainted. If they remain silent and he is exonerated, they appear opportunistic and ungrateful. This erosion of social capital in Hollywood mirrors their financial isolation, as they find themselves without a robust support network in either the royal or entertainment sphere. The convergence of $36 million in liquidity gaps, the hardening of the St. James Protocol, and the collapse of the Netflix model has brought the Sussex empire to the brink of dissolution. The assumption that royal status could be converted into a sustainable, independent commercial powerhouse has proven to be an influencer grift that lacks the necessary institutional scaffolding. As 2026 progresses, the Duke and Duchess face a PR nightmare and a financial contingency plan from the palace that seeks to ring-fence royal assets from their failing ventures. The message from London is clear: the era of the royal safety net is over and the Bank of Pear is closed. For Prince Harry, the lesson of 2026 is that freedom without responsibility isn't freedom at all. It's just expensive isolation with a mortgage he can't afford. The judgment of the public and the institution now rests on whether the couple can prove their consistency and restraint, or if they will continue to spiral in a doom loop of rebrands and disappointment. The economic reality of 2026 serves as a stark reminder of the gravity of institutional support. While the Sussexes sought to build a brand predicated on their personal narrative, the market has signaled a saturation point. The transition from public service to private commerce requires a level of operational stability and market alignment that the Archewell umbrella has struggled to maintain. As liquid reserves dwindle, the operational overhead of a global public profile remains static, creating a structural deficit that no amount of lifestyle branding seems able to close. The upcoming months will likely define the long-term viability of the Sussex brand. Without the anchor of a major streaming contract and with the primary residence becoming a financial millstone, the strategic options available to the Duke and Duchess are narrowing. The refusal of the Prince of Wales to intervene underscores a fundamental shift in the royal family's approach to its members. Loyalty is now inextricably linked to fiscal and institutional responsibility. The story of the $36 million gap is not just a story of money, it is the story of the end of the royal exception in the world of global finance. Would you like me to elaborate on the specific details of the St. James Protocol, or the impact of the California insurance crisis on luxury estates? This fiscal strangulation has led to what insiders are calling the Montecito pivot, a desperate attempt to diversify income streams as the primary media pillars crumble. With the Netflix sunsetting, the Duke and Duchess have reportedly explored a move into the high-stakes world of Silicon Valley venture capital and public speaking circuits. However, the market for celebrity keynote speakers has cooled significantly since. In the current economic climate, corporations are less inclined to pay the seven-figure fees Harry once commanded, especially as his narrative of personal grievance begins to experience diminishing returns in the public consciousness. The novelty premium that once surrounded the couple has been replaced by a controversy discount, as brands fear that associating with the Sussexes will invite the ire of a polarized audience, or worse, the clinical silence of the British crown. Furthermore, the St. James Protocol enforced by Prince William has extended beyond liquid assets to include the very branding rights the Duke and Duchess rely upon. There are ongoing whispers in legal circles that the palace is reviewing the commercial use of royal-adjacent titles in the North American retail space. If the As Ever brand faces a legal challenge regarding its marketing or its perceived link to the monarchy's intellectual property, it could result in a catastrophic loss of investor confidence. This legal pressure is a form of soft soft power that William is reportedly prepared to use to ensure that the Sussex Empire does not inadvertently tarnish the carefully curated image of the working royals who remain in the United Kingdom. The human cost of this financial decline is also becoming visible in the couple's social orbit. The celebrity flight from Montecito is a documented phenomenon in 2026, as Hollywood's elite begin to distance themselves from the perceived toxicity of the Sussex brand. For years, the couple relied on the social capital of A-list friends to bolster their image of success. But as the $36 million liquidity crisis becomes public knowledge, that social capital is evaporating. The silence from former allies like Tyler Perry or the Obamas is not just a personal slight. It is a strategic business signal. In Hollywood, insolvency is often treated as a contagious disease, and the Sussexes are finding themselves increasingly quarantined in their high-maintenance estate. Ultimately, the crisis of 2026 represents the final collision between the fantasy of celebrity royalty and the reality of corporate accountability. The Duke of Sussex was once a title that opened every door in the world. In the current landscape, it is increasingly viewed as a liability that comes with a heavy price tag and a litany of legal complications. As the Duke looks toward the future, the options are stark: a humble return to the institutional fold under his brother's strict terms, or a continued descent into the doom loop: commercial failure. The Spare has found that without the heir to anchor his finances, the weight of his own independence may finally be enough to pull the entire Sussex enterprise under the waves of a changing global economy.